I want to get started first by showing you the base, the pages, as well as the spine system that we will be using and how I created that. So the base was done. Now this is a 5.5 by 7.5 album, and I have done this using Tamra's lay flat method, using the regular weight chipboard. And our spine for this is going to be that 7.5 wide, or excuse me, tall, and it's 2 inches wide. So what you need for this, if doing the lay flat method, and there are many videos out there on how to do this, is 2 5.5 by 7.5 pieces of your chipboard and 1 2 by 7.5 piece of chipboard. So that will be our base. And I have used the black artisan cardstock for this. Next is the pages. So our pages are going to be on an accordion spine system, as you see here, and I will show you how I did that. That will be a piece of paper that is the artisan, also in black, at 7.25 by 10. And then our pages. So all of these pages, we're going to have 3 regulars that actually flip open, and then we're going to have 2 pocket pages. So I'm going to show you how to make the pocket pages, and these were not done with the artisan. I did run out when I cut these, but I would much prefer to use artisan on this. But we are going to have a couple different pages styles. So this is what the pocket page looks like when it is completed. Our page 5 is going to be a gatefold page, and there will be a belly band underneath of this with a photo mat. Page 1 is going to be a flip open page. It has 2 flips, and on the back side it will be a regular page. And then the very last page is another. It's mimicking that, and we will also mirror the pocket pages. So first I want to show you how to make the pocket pages. Very simple. Whatever size, and this can be changed to any size. Just keep in mind the size of your album. So my album is 5.5, so my pages are all 5.25 by 7.75. Or excuse me, five. Let me make sure I did this correctly. I'm grabbing the wrong thing here. I need a scoreboard. So what we're going to do is we are going to have our 5.25 inch pages, and they will be 7.25 inches long. I apologize for that. But what you need to make one of the pocket pages is 2 pieces of 5.25 by 7.75. You're going to put this on its 7.75 side on your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch on one end. Okay? Do the same thing. Put the other one on 5.25 by 7.75, and we want to score in at 1/2 inch on the side. Now, when we put these together, one will be on one side and one will be on the other. But this is a super simple way to make your pocket pages. I'm going to put my scoreboard away here really quick. So we want to take those score lines and burnish them down nicely. And then what we're going to do is we are going to flip them. So you have your 1/2 inch score line on the left, and then upside down we have our 1/2 inch score line on the right. So when you put these together, as you can see, we'll glue this hinge on this side and this hinge on this side, and it's going to give us a pocket page. So let me just demonstrate really quick. I'm going to actually use my scoreboard as a guide, and I love doing that. It is a tool I actually learned by watching Tamra. She does use her scoreboard, and it helps you line up your papers, which I love. So let's just go ahead and get that glue on this 1/2 inch score line first. And I like to do one at a time. So I'm going to lay this flat with my score line up, making sure that my other 1/2 inch flap is on this end. So we want to make sure that we don't have a flap on this side. And then I'm just going to kind of hold that down and get my paper situated in there so that it lines up. And there we have that. And that leaves us with this. By doing one at a time, you can actually open it up and burnish that glue out a little nicer if you prefer. I do. And then I'm just going to turn it the other direction, and I'm going to add my glue to my other 1/2 inch flap on this side. And then I am just going to press down. And now, as you can see, we have a nice little pocket page. Easy. So now we have page 1, which will be our little 2-flap page. And this one is done using this is a 10.5 by 7 1/4, scored at 5 1/4. And then it was opened up and flipped here. And what I did here was I just scored it at 3 5/8, and I cut a little more than that out. So you can see, it's just so that they will flip nicely. And the paper that will go underneath on the inside here will coordinate really nicely so that you see that. So you can see here where I scored, so I have 2 flaps that are a little over 2 1/2, not quite 2 5/8, but both of them are that size. And then I just took a little bit out of the middle. So that is our page 1 and page 2. Our page 3 is the pocket page that we just made, and it will be a pocket page, and then we'll do something on the back. Our page 5 is going to be a gatefold. So this page is 10.5 by 7 1/4, scored at 2 3/8 from both sides. So we have 2 3/8, or excuse me, 2 5/8 on this side. And then I just flipped mine and did 2 5/8 on the other side. I'm not quite sure why that says 3. I must have been tired when I wrote this, because that is actually 2 5/8. Okay, so then you have your gatefold. And I'm noticing that this is a little bit long, so I may go in, just like I did with the double flip page, and just maybe take a little bit off of one of these so that they don't rub together. I don't like that rubbing together, because we have our full, actually it looks like I can maybe pull this a little bit away. Yeah, no, we're just going to trim it. So we have our full 5 1/4. So that is our page 5 and page 6. Our page 7 is our second pocket page. 8 is on the back, and then page 9 is a mirror. It's another one of these with the little piece cut out of the middle, and it'll be like so. Okay? So next, we want to make our spine piece. And like I said, this was a 7 1/4 by 10-inch piece. And I want 1/4 inch spaces in between my 1/2 inch page gussets. And then we're 2 3/4, 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/2, 5, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 7, 7 1/2, and then you have your spaces in between on the ends to go in your spine. So then we just want to put our score tape on one side of each one of those little gussets, and I'm going to go ahead and rip this off so I can show you. I usually will do these one at a time just to make sure that they're lining up, because you can pull if you're using score tape like I'm doing. And as you can see, this will make a nice little mountain. See? And we can kind of pull it if it doesn't line up properly. So we want to make sure we get a nice flat surface on the back side here when we are done, so that we can ensure that our page goes down nicely into our spine of our book. So I am going to go ahead and grab this next one and finish that down. This gets a little tricky grabbing these, because they want to stick to each other, and obviously we don't want that. We want them to be separate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these together, and then we will pull as needed. I'll show you what I mean by pull as needed. So we want this to sit nicely on our spine. So you just want to pull these away a little bit. Make sure you have all those nice 1/4 inch spaces in between. And I'm just going to go through and I am going to run a bone folder down every page. Excuse me, every hinge, to make sure that I am getting a nice, crisp hinge. If you don't have a nice, crisp hinge, your pages are going to be a lot harder to turn. And see how I'm kind of bowing here? I want to make sure that I am nice and straight. Okay, and now we can see that this is laying nice and flat. So then I'm going to put this in my book. I'm going to put my book on my scoreboard, and this is 7 1/4, keep in mind, and our book is 7 1/2. So you want to leave about 1/8 of an inch at the top and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom when you put this on, and try to be sure that you are centering it. Your paper should turn out to be about the same size as the paper that you place over your spine piece when you do the lay flat method. I'm going to go with the first 3, just before that first score line there. And I'm just going to set that down in there to make sure that I get a nice easiest way is to do them a little at a time. Okay, that is good there. And I just want to make sure I go through with my bone folder and just reintroduce the paper to those score lines by just running the bone folder along each score line, making sure that tape is nice and adhered to the surface. You don't want this to be so tight that your pages don't want to move. Is my main focus here. And there we go. Now I probably could have fit 6 pages, and you could do that if you so choose. I chose just to do the 5, which actually gives us 10 pages. And so next, we will decorate our pages, and then we'll add them to the book. All right, so before we get to decorating our pages, let's go ahead and decorate the inside, the lining. And I'm going to use the Barn Red Artisan cardstock for this. And I've cut these to 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. And these are going to be mats. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these 2 down. And this, again, as all I say with all of my projects, this album could be made in any of your favorite collections. I am using the Majestic Dreams from Country Craft Creations, as I said, as part of a series of projects that I will be doing to reintroduce you to these beautiful papers. So then I've cut 2 pieces of this paper here from the collection with all the different cameoed writers. And I'm going to go ahead and take that black distress ink, and I'm just going to ink around the edges of those. So I'm just going to place these down, and you could do these either way with just the top showing, or you can do them like I'm doing with the full side A, which is the, this is actually side B that I'm using, I do believe, of these papers. And these would just go right in the middle. And these are 5 1/8 by 7 1/8. Use a rag here. I got a little too much glue. I get a little crazy with the art glitter glue sometimes. I am going to go in, even though I know I'm going to cover this. I'm just going to go in and get rid of those white. I use a white watercolor pencil. These are great because they erase super easy if you're trying to mark your pieces as you go, which I always do. Another little tip is I always keep my pages, once I get them figured out, in envelopes by page number. And then I can just go back and look at them, and it's very easy to film a video if you're doing that. Let's go ahead and start decorating pages. So now we have our lining all done in our book. And we are going to start decorating our amazing pages. So we're going to start with page 1. Okay, and I'm just going to pull out my little bag of tricks here. Page 1. So page 1 is the piece with the 2 and flaps on one side. And I always write the S on here so I know when I'm decorating where my spine is. Okay, so what I have for this is a few little pieces. This will essentially be, this is our underside piece. So this will go here. These are not matted, so you know. And then I have these 2 here, and they will be on the inside here next to this. So this is a flip side. And I think I have that upside down. I want to kind of keep those together because they are the same. They're cut from the same sheet, so they kind of coincide. So that will be that page. Okay. And then we will have 2 more. And we're going to have this one on the bottom of the front one. And then we will have our gorgeous writings on the top. And then what I've created here, now this is a Graphic 45 die. If you don't have this die, you could make any kind of a latch system that works for you. This is, like I said, a Graphic 45 die, and I have just cut this paper. See how I cut it so that I see this little image. And this is going to slip on here, and there will be a magnet so that this holds. Okay? So let me tell you what these sizes are. The 4 pieces that go on our flaps are going to be 5 1/8 inches wide by 3 3/8 of an inch tall. And there's 4 of those total. Regardless of what paper you're using, you will need 4 of these. The piece on the inside is going to be 5 1/8 by 7 1/8. Okay, easy peasy. And I'm going to go ahead and ink all of these and lay them down. So if you are going to use the system that I used, which is by scoring this down, this die cut, you could also use a tag for this if you had a tag. I just made it so that I had enough space to hang over, and that left me, after scoring, about 2 3/4 of an inch on the top edge there. And this is, like I said, a Graphic 45 die. So it's this die here, and there's one that goes for the middle, and I just cut these tabs off because I did not need them. So before placing this all the way down, you want to slip your piece here. This is our scored inch of space. And I just want to make sure that I get enough glue in there. And we just want to slip this in so that it goes right around that paper. And make sure it's close to the middle. I am not getting it exactly where I want it. So let me see here what's going on. I just want to line it up so that that score line is pretty close to perfect. And then when we put the paper on, it will settle this down a little. So we just want to make sure that that is adhered underneath of our backside paper, okay? Now you have this nice little flap that's going to close our paper. And this does have an edge on it that is serrated for the envelope die. So when I did that, I was very cautious not to rip it. But it is easy to rip, so make sure that you don't rip it. Once you get your decorative paper, this piece here, on top of it, you won't have that problem anymore. It will stiffen this up a little. And I see that I need to cut this down just a hair, maybe. So I'm going to snip this down just a little bit. And this is a process. I mean, nothing is perfect on the first try. I just want to make sure that that edge still leaves a little bit of the black showing. Okay, so then I'm just going to add that piece on. This is cut from the other portion of that die set. Again, you can use a tag. You can make your own, just a square flap if you don't want the decorative showing like I did here. You can pretty much do anything you want as long as you have a little flap here of some sort to act as a closure for your page. Okay, so see, now we have this fun little closure, and before we back this, we're going to put a magnet here, and there will also be a magnet somewhere on underneath one of these. Okay, so let's go back to the inside and go ahead and decorate these. And I want to make sure that I am getting, yes, this is this paper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere these. Okay, so for the magnet, I've placed one side of my magnet down, and then I have this one with some sticky tape, and I'm just going to put that like so. And then I am going to close my book and see how that's going to work. It's going to hold down our pages for us. And then we just have that there like so. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cover these pieces. Okay, so I wanted this to be a little bit more sturdy, so I went ahead and added another magnet on the other side, so we have one for each flap, and I kind of like that better. So we're just going to do the same thing, and now we'll have a better closure. All right, so on to page 2. I have cut this, again, 5 1/8 by 7 1/8, and I'm going to go ahead and I am going to ink that. And I will show you really quickly, as soon as I get this inked, that for the flap that we added the 2 magnets to on the other side for page 1, I backed that with the same paper. I just did another die cut. If you are using a tag or such and you don't have that, you will need to just fussy cut something. But as you can see here, I went ahead and used another piece of paper there for that. So next I'm going to add my horse paper here, and then we have a fun little, also using die cuts. Most of us crafters do have staple dies in our stash of dies, and that's what I've used, is just some basic nesting dies in here for some photo mats. So I'm going to place this down, leaving some of that black showing all the way around. Nice and straight. There we go. And then for this page, what I have is a black, and this is the Aqua Teeny My Colors canvas cardstock. Excuse me. So if you want to just make a rectangle, if you don't happen to have dies, this is a 4 1/4 by 3, and then the smaller one is going to be a 3 7/8 by 2 5/8. And those are just going to go right down here underneath our horses. I'm going to go ahead and put the first one on so you can see. Again, these are solid, so I won't be inking these papers. And I'm going to do this a little offset. So I'm going to add one of the fun little cut apart die cuts from the paper collection on this page as well as a little tuck. I'm going to go ahead and add my green. Center that nicely. Now we have this fun little place to add a photo. And I'm going to take this fun little die cut that matches our other side. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. And these all come in the collections. Tamra has these die cuts with them, and they're magnificent to use because you can use them for tuck spots. You can use them for pretty much anything. So we want to leave most of this side open. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line with my glue right down the middle here, a little off, a little more than middle. because we don't want to leave the whole thing open, just enough to tuck a picture. So as you can see, I've left some open there. And then we're just going to place this right on that set of die cuts or squares, whichever you're doing. And press down our glue. And now, as you can see, this will act as a little tuck spot for a picture. You could stick a picture on here. You can get quite a large picture on these pages. So there is our page 1 with our 2 flaps. And here is our page 2. So let's go ahead and put this in the book so I can show you how we do that. This is our page 1 and 2. And I also forgot to tell you, I do miter the corners of my spine pieces. Just the slip-on pockets especially go on a little easier. So we are just going to put some score tape right down that score line, or excuse me, that hinge. And I like to put mine leaving some towards the back. So put your score tape as close to this edge, which would be your right edge, as you possibly can, just because I like having a little bit of play towards my spine. So I'm just going to go ahead and mat that down. And we will have a little bit of this that will not show once we put this in. So just keep that in mind. So you just want to line that up with your score tape. And want to make sure it's nice and straight before you burnish anything. And then as you can see, we have this black showing. Now you could put the paper over the top of this, which I probably actually should have done. Sorry for this oops here. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and peel up the edge of this and attempt to place it on there before. Okay, so off camera, I was able to pull that up a little. I would suggest, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before. I usually do the second page after. So we will decorate our cover pages and then the second page on the inside once we get it in. But I was able to lift mine up. It does look a little messy, but that is what I had to do so that this was nice and neat. So I'm just going to have to try to slip this in here onto that score tape as nice and easily as possible. And it's not the simplest, but it is a quick fix if you have an oops like I just did. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to lay this down. I apologize for this. I will do the rest of the pages quite differently now, so this does not happen again. All right, so I'm going to press that all down in there. And then I'm going to put glue down to fix this. And I'm going to probably have a couple little scratches on my paper, but I've learned a lesson today and was able to fix it to an extent. So I'm just going to go down and try to get all that burnished out. Yeah, I did rip my paper just a little bit at the top. So for the rest of the pages going forward, we will decorate the flip side page once it's in here. And I probably should have done that. So easy fix. We have this nice page here, as you can see. And there. So an oops can be fixed, although I don't suggest it. Like I said, I did rip my paper a little bit there. I probably going to have to leave that one. I don't really know how I would fix that. So we're going to go ahead and put our next pages in, which is, this is going to be our first pocket page, and these are a little bit simpler anyways, so we're just going to go ahead and slide this over. We can decorate this first and then slide it over because it does slide onto here, and I just want to make sure that it's going to slide okay before decorating it, and it does, and it lines up. Okay, so let's go on to decorating page 3. So we have our page 1 and our page 2 done. This is our page 3. I'm going to pull out all my pieces. And I am going to start with this wonderful horseshoe paper here. And the reason for this is because it coordinates with the horses on our page 2. So I'm going to go ahead and run some Distress ink on that. And then we're just going to burnish that out. Okay, so I've added those papers and I've just put glue on this side with this 1/2 inch flap of this underneath, down this side and down the bottom. That way you have this fun little tuck spot here too if you wanted to put another photo in there. And then we're just going to ink up our little Jockey Club cut apart here. And add that to the cover here. And that little pop of red just picks up off of her red collar. That is optional. You don't have to put that. All right, so next we're going to go to page 4. Okay, so another little snafu, but easily fixed. So our page 4 was going to have the waterfall mechanism. Since we have, I did put this off, and if you do this just like mine, and you have this extra, instead of having a 1/4 inch space at the back, you have a 1/2 inch between where your pages end and your back cover begins. This is probably a better place to put our waterfall, is on that page 10. That way we have all this extra room for that waterfall. So when I took that off, it did obviously leave a mark, but what I'm going to do, and you can do this as well on this page, it makes for a great page, is I'm going to take a 6 1/8 by 4 inch piece of paper of the black, and I'm going to just score it at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Easy fix. So 6 1/8, 4 inches tall, scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, and then we're just going to miter those corners down. Put my scoreboard away here. Burnish all of those score lines to make our pocket. And that will cover my mistake. I'm going to go ahead and notch this pocket using my We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. I know that this is a 6 1/8, so I'm going to go I'm just going to go with, what did we end with? It's 5 1/8. So we want to go at about 2 1/2, not quite, and we'll be right about in the middle there. Okay. And that's just, you can notch this with anything. You don't have to have the We Are Memory Keepers board. That's just what I prefer to use. So I'm just going to run glue on those 1/2 inch flaps of my pocket, little gussets. And you could do just a flat pocket if you wanted to. I wanted to have room to throw a photo mat in here if I wanted to. I'm just going to place that right down on that page, all the way at the bottom of that decorative paper, and on both sides of the decorative paper. And I'm going to burnish that out. And now I just have another fun little pocket that we can put a photo mat in. I'm going to cover this with decorative paper as a finishing touch. When I decorate my album fully, I will add some things to this pocket. And there we have that. So now we're going to move on. We have our page 1, 2, and our page 3, 4. So next we want our 5, 6. That is going to be our gatefold pocket, or excuse me, gatefold page that measures 10 1/2 by 7 1/4, scored at 2 5/8 on either side. Now, if you don't want this kind of flippity going on, you can do what I'm going to do, and that's going to be to take one side. I'm just going to trim it out. You can do this with scissors. I am going to do this with my board here. And I'm going to trim it so that it is just a little bit over 2 1/2. And that's just going to give me an extra little bit of space so that I can move this better without them clipping. So we'll do that on both sides, just over that 2 1/2 mark. Instead of the 2 5/8, we're going to go right in between it. So if you're using the Tim Holtz guillotine or one that measures similar, just go right to that dot right between the 2 1/2 and the 2 5/8 that we started with. and trim. I need to sharpen my blades. And now, as you can see, we have a gatefold that moves a little nicer. And we will be adding some pockets to the front of this that will make this close, okay? So let's go ahead and add this page in our book. Grab my score tape. So we will go ahead and press that down. And now we have our little gatefold opening pocket, or excuse me, page. Go ahead and adhere that down all the way. And we will decorate this page. So this is our page 5, which I have a whole bunch of goodies in here for page 5. So this page is going to have this in the background. So we're going to have this beautiful rose paper back here. We're going to have a belly band in the middle of that that will house a photo mat. I will have this paper to cover my belly band. Gorgeous. And then we have our pieces that go on the inside and the out. So we're going to do our roses on here, like so. And then on the inside pages, we will have these pieces that match our belly band. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and ink those and put them down, and I will be right back. Okay, so let's finish up this gatefold page. I have added a belly band underneath. As you can see, we can put a nice sized photo mat underneath here, which I will make one. So for this, what we're going to do for a closure, I have taken one of the cut-aparts with the lady with the horse, and then I took a piece of the black cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 6 1/8, and I matted it on there to make my little photo mat. Okay, so now we have 2 pieces of the black artisan cardstock I've cut here, and these were cut at 3 1/8 by 3 1/4, I do believe. Yes, so 3 1/8 by 3 1/4. And then what I've done is I have scored 1/2 inch on one side. For the side, it's on the left, or excuse me, the left, and then across the bottom. And for this side, I've done the same thing, but scored it so that it's on the right side, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch across the bottom. And then I'm just going to miter that corner there, that corner there, and that corner there. And I'm going to do that on both of these. These are essentially going to be a tuck spot for the element that I have created, which was this cut apart from the paper, backed with black artisan cardstock. So I'm just going to fold these little pockets, and these are going to be placed right here. And I'm seeing that this one is a little, oh, I did it backwards. Sorry. It's this one. So we want to put those over as far as possible, but we want them to kind of butt up with the gate itself. And you could also make these so that they're at an angle. You could cut them off. I am not choosing, I don't think, to do that. I'll see how our element looks in it, and then I'll decide if I want to snip those down or not. This one seems a little larger, and I'm not quite sure how that happened, so I'm just going to snip off a little bit. There's not an exact science to making these little tuck pockets, unfortunately, for me anyways. I just want to make sure it lines up here and does not overlap anywhere. There we go. Now I am going to see how she's going to look once she's in there. Yeah, I think we want to angle this a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going to snip the corners of this off. What I think I'll do is I'll mark it so that they're the same. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to go over about, I'm going to say 3/4 of an inch, and make a little spot with my white pencil so that I know where I'm at. And then I'm going to do the same thing from this edge. So I'm going to go in at 3 1/4, or excuse me, 3/4. No, that's not correct. So I've marked a 3/4 mark here, and I'm just going to actually go from that 3/4 mark, 3/4 inch, and just snip my corner off, and that's going to end up like so. And then I can do the same with this one once I get it on. So let's go ahead and add glue to these two little hinges here. And then I just want to place it down on that door of our gatefold page, as straight as you can get it. And now you see I have this fun little tuck spot. I'm going to grab a bone folder here and burnish that out a little bit. There we go. All right, on to the next. So here I want to mark my 3/4 of an inch from the top with a white pencil. Now you can use any pencil you want. I like the white because I can erase it if I need to. And then on the bottom here, we have about an inch. So I'm going to go up an inch just to make sure I get those quite close. And I am going to snip that off. And see, now they're very close in size. Make sure that one's fitting properly before I add my glue. Yep. All right. So I've got a little bit of overlap action here, and you don't want that with your corners because it causes problems with what you're putting in the pocket. So I'm just going to burnish that out, those score lines. And part of this album, I did not use the black artisan, but for a lot of elements I have, where I had bits and pieces before I ordered some. So because of that, I would suggest that you use artisan. Obviously, it's my go-to cardstock, but I did not have it for this entire album. But parts of it, I've been able to use some of my scraps and such. That way I make sure that I get a nice crisp score line, especially on pockets like this. So then our little element will slip right inside there, and it's going to hold our doors closed. Okay, and then I am going to embellish these pockets with some cardstock. I will do that later, and that will have to be cut using some sort of, I'm assuming I'll probably have to make some sort of example or cut it, template, and then cut it. And you could put more in here too to make this down even more. You could put a couple, because we have those 1/2 inch gussets, you're able to put a couple photo mats in here if you like. Okay, on to the next page. Okay, so on to page 6. I did go ahead and embellish those pockets with the same paper that I have here. And I just cut a template that fit as good as possible to make those. So our page 6 is going to be this super fun pieced together page. Now, Tamra makes these. She recently made one with her the 4th of July album that she's been doing. And I watched that video and I just loved the idea of taking the scraps and making these fun collaged pages. So I have made a couple for this album. This is being the first, page 6 here. And I am going to place that down there. I've just backed it with white paper as how I made mine. And if you go back and watch Tamra's, the 4th of July album that she was just making, she does make this as well as the waterfall that I have for the last page here. So let's get this on here. It's a little thicker, so it's a little harder to get it to stick down the way I want it to. Well, I will get it. I'm just going to add a little more glue around the edge there. And then just really press that down so it lines up with my hinge. through it with a bone folder and just burnish it down a little. And then I've just cut a couple squares for photo matting here. And I am going to place those on top of each other. We have a red and a black. The black is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. And our red is 4 by 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the black on first. I'm going to put that right in the middle of the page, and that way you can put a photo on it. You can add some paper for journaling on the bottom if you like. Add our red. Right, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of that black showing. There we go. And now we have this fun photo mat right there. And you could also add, which I'm going to do, some of these fun fussy cuts that I have that are from the sheet with all the little tags and such. And I think I'm going to use this Fun Run for the Roses ones. I like this. And I'm just going to glue the bottom of this. And that way it will act as a tuck spot for my picture. Just like that. See? A little tuck spot there. All right. Next, page 7 and 8. Okay, so for this one, we have this lovely script paper in the background, and then I have created this little card using black cardstock, and it measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So it's 8 1/2 by 6 1/4, and then I placed that on the cut apart on there. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to put this on the page just like you see here. And if you wanted to, you could place this only down by a few sides and turn it into a pocket. I'm not going to do that, but if you're going to do that, that would work as well. And you could slip another photo behind this fun card. We're just going to place that right in the middle of our page. And then I'm going to open this to burnish it. Paper likes to bend sometimes. And we're going to move on to page 8. So page 8, grab my papers here, is a fun one. This is going to be a page with some tags that I have created using dies from my stash. We'll also be using some of the fussy cut, or excuse me, the cut aparts from the paper. And we're going to do this fun one here where it says Kentucky Oaks Day. Love this paper. I'm just going to ink it up really quick. And you can use any paper collection for this. This is just what I am using. And you can also decorate this any way you like. If you want to follow along and do the exact same papers that I'm doing, that's fine. But you certainly do not have to. You can decorate any way you like. And for my cover, I will not have a video for how I decorate that, but that is left to the imagination as well. If you want to make it really fancy and put a bunch of flowers on there, or don't make it fancy, that is totally up to your discretion. So there is our page 8. Now what we're going to do is I have all these fun little tags that I made with the different papers. And we're going to create a little tuck spot using our fun, some die cuts, as well as the actual fussy cuts that I've done. So I'm going to just glue this around this edge here. For starters, this is going to go right down here towards my corner. And then I'm going to add a couple more elements. I'm going to grab this one here. And I didn't ink that last one, but it's quite dark, so it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and ink this one, though. Again, we're just going to glue off to the side here and down the bottom. Add that piece to here. And I want this to glue down to this, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little more just to the die cut underneath. I want to be able to get something under here, so I don't want too much to disrupt that. And then let's see here, we have this fun horse one, or I'm thinking I actually have a fussy cut of that fun lemonade glass that I think would be super cute. So we're going to go ahead and do that one. So I'm going to pull this one back a little bit because I want this just adhered to the other fussy cut, or the other elements here. I don't want it glued to the paper below. So here's that. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down to that cup. Isn't that fun? You just make your own little pockets by stacking some of these fun little elements. And then, like I said, I have some tags here that I have made. I cut some out from tag dies that I had in my stash. Just going to ink these papers that go on top. And put this piece, I did, like I said, I used a tag die from my stash, and any tag die will work, or you could simply cut photo mats and put them in this pocket just as easily. But for me, I am going to do these fun stitched tags that I have the dies for. So there's one, and that will fit nicely in there. And then we're going to do one with the color on the outside, the flip side of the paper, so that we get some of that vibrant color showing. Super fun. I think I might actually put something in the background too, just because I feel like that is really, you're not seeing a lot of color there because the background is the same as my tags, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but this is just an idea anyways. You don't have to do yours exactly as I'm doing, as I stated before. I like this one with the lemonade and the glass, or excuse me, the mint julep, I believe those are, in the glass. And then you see the lady's face in the background. It's cute. All right, so that's not too bad. I don't mind that now. And then I just have this extra tag. I'm just going to stuff that in there. It was one that I cut. So that is our page 7 and 8. And I think I am going to add just a little pop of color on this page. I'm just going to put some roses and flowers here on this page just to add a little pop of color, because I feel like there's not enough color here. So I'm going to put one of these fussy cut roses up here. And then I have another little set of fussy cut flowers. I'm going to put those on there as well. So then we have this nice little group of 3 flowers up here to give us some color. There we go. Now I have a little fun element of color on there. I'm going to stick this one down here, I think. That would be pretty. Sometimes I get ideas in my head of exactly how something's going to be, and then when I go to do it, it's not what I imagined, so I do it differently. And that's pretty much what's happening with this album. But that's okay. You're getting more ideas from me this way. So now we are going to put our score tape on here on both sides. And pull all those tags out of there for now so they don't get in the way. Just pull that open. Another pocket page. Super fun. All right, finally we have our page 9 and 10. So page 9 is going to be another one of these flips. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the book for this page. We'll put it in the book. We only need it on one side, remember. All right, so we want this side. We're going to leave this side open for our waterfall. And I am just going to place this down on here, lining it up with my other pages. All right, so for our last pages, 9 and 10, 9 is very similar to the first one we did here with the two flaps, and then it opens up. So for the inside, which I'm going to do first, I have cut this paper and I've cut it in pieces so that we have all of the pieces showing when this is open. And then you could put like a large photo in here. You could add a pocket if you wanted to. Any of those things would work. So let me just go ahead and put all those down. All right, so I have taken a piece of black cardstock that is 3 1/4 inch wide. And before I die cut it, it was 6 1/8. And then I just took my die and clipped the end. I've also added 2 of the magnets here on the top. And I'm going to cover that with this cut apart. And this is going to be our closure, just like we had on the front pages. And I rounded the back corners of this because it just lines up a little nicer with them rounded, because the ends of my die cut are also round. I just kind of want to burnish those magnets down in there as good as you can. Okay, now the other portion of those magnets is on the back. As you can see, I've just put it there so that I can stick it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of score tape, skinny score tape, and I'm going to put a piece of score tape on each one of these, a peeled off piece, so I don't want the backing on it. I just want it on there, like so. Not always the easiest thing here to do, but this is how I do it, so I get my magnets where I want them on my pages. Okay, and then we're just going to simply slide this over that 2. So it's going to be on the back side of this. So you just want to fold this over, get it to where your point is right about in the middle, and then I'm going to stick those other 2 magnets down. And as you can see, they stay. Easy peasy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and peel their backing off, which is not always easy either. And I am using the smaller basic gray magnets for this. For our front pieces here, I have these brown ones cut out, and I need to go ahead and ink those. I thought I had gone through and inked all of my paper before I started filming, and I guess I did not. So bear with me while I get these inked up. All right. Go ahead and see which ones. Now these do have a writing on them, so I want to make sure I get them the proper way. I think this one is the bottom, so we'll go with this one. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to take our wrap piece, all right, and I'm just going to add a little glue just to the underside of that flap. We want to do this before we put page 10's background on. So we're just going to put that on there, close our pages so we can line it up again. Make sure that we got our magnets where they belong. And then you can burnish your page down. Easy peasy. And as you can see, now it closes. And then as you can see, when you open this up, you have that whole spread of pages. All right, now we're going to finish with page 10. Page 10 is another one of these fun pages with scraps collaged together. So now I'm going to close my book up a little. It's hard to see, but that's the best way to get this edge here burnished down as nicely as possible so it doesn't peel up like this is doing right here in the corner. I don't have quite enough glue. And sometimes if your paper's a little stiffer and it doesn't want to lay down, you can also use a like a bullnose clip to clip your pages down. Right now, I am just going to go back and forth with a bone folder until that glue decides it wants to stick a little better. Next, we're going to add our fun little waterfall mechanism. And remember, we put adhesive. I did take this off of a page, so there is some mess there. And you just want to, as a reminder, add the adhesive you're using. Score tape works best on that strip. And I am just going to bring this all the way to the top of that collage page that I made. And press it down. And grab a larger bone folder. I'll try to get right up underneath of that mechanism to make sure that it adheres to our page. All right, and now we have our fun little mechanical waterfalls in the back. And see, that gives us a lot more space for that waterfall because I did have that excess paper there. So that is my album, pages 1 through 10, and the lining. I may add some pockets, and I will be matting and decorating the front and the back, as well as the inner spine here so that it's not... or excuse me, the outer spine, and I will have showed you the finished album at the beginning. You can decorate this any way you like.